Today, I'm answering some of the best questions that I have received from fellow creatives and young emerging artists. And we're going to be covering a little bit of turning concepts into abstract art, navigating being online, even if you're a little bit on the introverted side of things. And we're going to dive into some practical tips, personal experiences, and some of the things I've learned over the years as a full-time artist. And if this is the first time we're meeting, hello. I'm Adriana. I am a painter, sculptor, and muralist based in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I absolutely love sharing forward the key lessons that I have learned during my journey as a full-time artist. And honestly, these are some of the things I wish I had heard when I got started. So without further ado, let's go ahead and begin. So I want to start with the questions that I've received from fellow creatives. And one of the ones that I got recently was, how do I turn abstract ideas into actual paintings? And I really love this question. It had me thinking for a second on how to answer this without going into a full-blown novel of an answer. So this is going to be my attempt at being as succinct as possible. Here goes. Long story short, I start with observation. So it could be a flower that's in the garden. It could be a tree that's in a park. It could be a crack in the asphalt. Honestly, anything. Anything can spark that almost like that drive to discover and explore further. For me, a lot of times it's shapes and they just kind of call out to me. So it could be something that has an interesting pattern. It could be the negative space between forms. So think of the branches of a tree. A lot of times I'm more interested in the shapes created by the space between the branches than the branches themselves. Obviously, everybody's brain's wired differently, but that's kind of what I focus on. And then from there, normally I'll start by sketching. It could be on paper, it could be on a tablet, but essentially I start thinking about the types of stories, the types of memories, and or the type of concepts that I may want to convey as I'm recreating these shapes that I saw. So maybe I saw a shape out in nature and it reminded me of something as a kid, right? Let's say it reminded me, I don't know, of rollerblades. I'm giving an easy example. Then as I am drawing the shape out and reinterpreting the shape, in a way that would fit the style that I'm going for, the design that I'm going for, then at the same time I'm also thinking, multitasking and thinking about, that time I had rollerblades and how many times I fell and I still got back up and I still had a blast, even if I had a busted knee. But it's kind of like that combination of things. Part of it is basically what I'm executing with my hands, but at the same time, I am multitasking with, kind of like what I'm having in my head and trying to merge the two. And you could say that's kind of how I start piecing it together from there. As I work further through the sketches that later turn into maybe painting studies, maybe they turn into actual sculptures or paintings or even murals, but a lot of times that's how it starts. It's literally sitting down, observation, and sketching. Another question I've received is in regards to my abstract sculptures and how it can have some unusual forms, and some people see hearts in it, some people see coral reefs, some people see, well, they see all kinds of stuff in them, but I've gotten questions of how I make them. So I will say, when I started, getting in the time machine for a second, years back, I did like a lot of people do. I took wheel throwing classes. I started with bowls. I started with mugs, things, functional objects. And then I came to realize the kind of shapes that I wanted to create, that I was imagining in my head, weren't quite working the way I thought. So I decided to kind of just experiment, right? And started to see, could I have ceramic sculpture turn into an extension of my body of work? And could it sit alongside one of my paintings? And they all still, get along, right? They're all still related to each other. And I realized, okay, wheel wasn't enough. I needed to change my approach. Not saying you can't do this with wheel, you probably can, but at least for me. So the way that I started doing it was to say, okay, I'm still going to do what I do with painting. I'm still going to do observation. I'm still going to do some initial sketches. But the difference is going to be when I sit down to work on a ceramic sculpture, I try to keep it simple. I start with a few key shapes, right? This one might be a little bit more organic. This one might be a little bit more geometric. And I just have like different pieces on my work table. And then I try to figure out how can I put them together, almost like I'm assembling them while still keeping it somewhat in line with what I sketched out, but also flexible so that I can change it as I go along. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but hopefully it does. It's kind of that idea of letting the shapes emerge as I go and then going from there. I will say though, when it comes to some of the things people see in them, I can tell you the coral reef inspiration that's in some of them comes from diving. And all the kinds of amazing stuff you see underwater. And then the hard forms, honestly, that one was pure coincidence. And I was not expecting that connection when people started talking about it, but I love it. I'm here for it. So, anyways, hopefully that helps with that question of, coming up with those sculptures. Long story short, it's like a collage process. There's a lot of experimentation going on. Moving on to the muraling side of things, a question that I've received is how to connect with other mural artists and possibly collaborate with them. So, online and offline, two main ways, of course. Online, this is where social media shines. Let's say on a platform like Instagram, and a mural comes up on my feed. I may click over, see the type of artwork they do, and if they resonate, I will likely comment or DM and kind of like get the conversation started. And sometimes that's it. We just kind of, talk to each other through online, and who knows, we may share different opportunities that are coming up that we may be able to apply to, and who knows, maybe we'll end up doing it together. So that part's really cool. If it's offline, normally I will find other muralists at other art events. Sometimes it's group exhibitions. I've met some through small business workshops, and I've also had muralists drop into my studio, which is open to the public a few days a week. So there's that too. But the collaboration part, that can be a little bit more complicated. I know some artists are excited about the possibility with working with a muralist and, doing things together. I would say with that one, if it's someone that you don't know yet, build a relationship first. That's what I do, at least, especially if they're local. We might just go get some coffee or some boba and talk shop for a little bit, and then kind of dive into kind of like what our specialties are, what our strengths are. How can we complement each other? So maybe one of the artists is better with spray and one of the other artists is better with brushing, and one of them does hard edges and the other one does gradients. It's a matter of kind of like putting those things together and seeing how it goes from there. But a lot of times I would say those connections, part of how they'll bloom is we'll actually do stuff together. We might go see an event together, or we might do a studio session where we paint together, or sometimes, depending on the mural, either they need an assistant or I need an assistant, and we're just flexible with each other, and we might just help each other out. Community over competition always. But yeah, if you go in with that mindset, build a relationship first, whether it's online or offline. The rest, I feel like it just follows. So another question I've gotten from folks of different walks of life and different age groups too is regarding my reason for making art. And I'll have to say, when things get a little bit tough, because art careers are up and down, of course, this is something good for for me to look at, honestly, and just remember why I do it. Why do I go through the trouble, right? So I would have to say there's two parts of that answer. And the first part of that answer is going to be, I make art because it helps me process complex ideas and emotions, and it helps me translate the world around me. It allows me to reflect. It allows me to meditate. It gives me the mental headspace that I need in order to be able to observe both the world within and the world outside of the self. And it can give me clarity on how to navigate forward, especially when things are a little bit tough. So that's one of the ways, or one of the reasons why I make art is literally, I mean, helps me survive, if you will, in this kind of crazy world we live in. It helps me. The other reason why I make it is so that I can share it with others. To me, art is a lot about transformation. I love how, and I don't know if this has happened to you, but I love how through art you can have that moment of introspection, that moment of pause, repose. Sometimes it can just fire up your imagination. It can spark creativity. It can just bring joy. Like, how did they do that? Or this is amazing. Or I love the colors. Or, it's just like a different kind of interaction with our world. And I love how even as something as simple, so to speak, as perhaps just abstract shapes and colors can give me, give us the ability to recall memories from childhood or something that we've seen or a place that we have been. And honestly, it's just like magic. Like how is it that, sometimes these images that we're creating can just transport us elsewhere? I absolutely love it. And for me, it's like in this type of fast-paced world that we live in, to me, art is giving you the excuse to pause and give it a second look. And how was that texture made? Or I like the way these colors sit with each other. Or I love the way the artist illustrated, XYZ, and it reminds me of ABC, whatever. You insert the rest of the story there, but it gives you space to do that. It's not just another, it's not just another scrolling moment. It's something where you can pause. And yeah, I feel like we all need a little bit more of that. So yeah, yeah, that's part of why I make art. So I've met a lot of young artists through summer camp and workshops and, folks that are coming into my studio building, which is open to the public part of the week. And this is where I encounter young emerging artists who have all kinds of questions about having an artist career. Although I think you're going to agree with me, some of these apply regardless of age and regardless of stage of career, and some of these may pop up. So one of the questions that I've gotten a lot is, how do I find the people that like the art that I do? It's a great question. It's like a simple and complicated answer at the same time. Yeah, so you may either like this or not, but let's dig in. In my experience, I would say it's a numbers game. Without the eyeballs, there's no discovery, right? Like, nobody knows you exist unless you put your stuff out there to as many people as possible, which is kind of scary, but we're going to dive into that too. But I'm going to give you an example first. Let's say that your art is all about scary monsters, horror fan art or something like that. And on average, only 1% of the people that see the art don't just love it, they actually want to buy it. Because a lot of people can like it, but doesn't mean they're going to buy it. Okay, you can do the math. Whether it's online in platforms like Instagram or Pinterest, or you're trying to do this an offline, I should say, in-person event or things like that, it boils down to you need to have a lot of people see it to find the people that actually like it, to find the people that actually want to buy it. It's kind of complicated, but at the same time, it's simple. You need to get eyeballs on it. So, especially if you're trying to pay some or all of your bills through art, then you could think of it as this being part of your job as a working artist, is to try to get your art discovered by the people who love your work and want to pay you and support you. And now this can mean a lot of different things. Again, if you're trying to get some kind of monetary support from your artwork. If you're not, different story, move on. But if you are, Yeah, you definitely do. Need to either find the people online and, they're buying your stuff directly. Offline, you're putting yourself out there at events, at markets, things like that. Or you're working with a third party, let's say something like a gallery or an art consultant or something along those lines, where they're helping to find the people that want to buy your art. But at the end of the day, with all of those avenues, you still need to get the right people to see your artwork, and you need the volume of eyeballs. Now, that doesn't need you need millions of followers or anything like that. You don't need to be a famous YouTuber or anything like that. It's just that you need enough eyeballs to find the people to support you. And those people that are supporting you, there's different theories out there. I won't get into it, otherwise this would be a really long video. But there's theories out there regarding how many of those fans of yours, paying fans, I should say, are the ones that then are going to help your career continue, right? Evolve and help fund it, and help spread the word. I mean, it gets into all of that. But long story short, if you don't put it out there, nobody knows you exist. No matter how good the art is, nobody knows it exists. They can't support you. You can't find your people, or I should say, they can't find you if you don't put it out there first. So another question I've gotten, and I love this one, is do I have to use social media? Also, I'm introverted. I don't want to feel like a sellout putting my stuff out there, and I'm worried that my art is gonna get judged harshly. Woo! Okay. Okay, let's tackle one bit at a time with this one. So first things first, no, you don't have to do social media. It's a great tool, but it's not the only way. Plenty of artists don't do social media, and on top of that, they may or may not have a website. Some just have a Facebook with some pictures of the art, and that's it. Or others are barely online, but they'll just focus more on in-person exhibitions, or perhaps work with a third party like a gallery or maybe a store that's carrying their artwork, and that's kind of how you find out about them. Going back to the previous question though, to find enough people, eyeballs, numbers game, if you are limited to in-person only, that's what you have to think about. So unless you're working with a gallery or perhaps a store of some sort that has a lot of foot traffic, you're still going to run into the same problem, or challenge, I should say, of getting enough people to see your art, to find the ones that are not just attracted to it, but actually want to buy it and have it in their home or work or whatever. So there's that. I will say though, if you're introverted or shy, you do not have to be on camera. I'm introverted, and here I am on camera. I'm trying, okay? I'm trying. But I want to give you hope. You don't have to be. Plenty of artists don't show their mugshot on social media. But they may show like their hand, with the brush as they're making a painting, or if they're sculpting or whatever, because it also helps like not just humanize their accounts, but also gives a sense of scale for the viewer of what size is this thing. You could do pictures or videos where, it's part of your shoulder or part of you working, but you absolutely do not have to show your face. You also don't have to dance. You also don't have to do all the trending, social media algorithm hacks or anything like that. You don't have to. Again, it's a tool, but it's not one you need to feel like you have to be, stuck with. In a way that makes you feel uncomfortable. So there's that. Another part of that question, oh yeah, about being a sellout. So I would say if you're staying authentic to your vision and what truly inspires you, then you won't fall to the temptation of what you think may sell well or what's trending out there. Just ignore all that. Trends come and go. And a lot of times, if you haven't heard this expression, I think you're going to like it. But a lot of times the people that you see get big on social media are what's called, what is it? A 10-year overnight success. I love this expression. So essentially, the thing that now they're all popular for, they've already been doing it for a long time. You just found out about it now. Or now there's a wave of popularity for that type of artwork style, for example. but they've already been doing it. They've already mastered it. They didn't become popular because they were doing it too. They became popular because they're good at it. But they've also put in the work and many years to get good at it first. And also probably had many years where it wasn't popular. So yeah, it's again, numbers game with a lot of this stuff. Um, let's see, what was the other part of this? Oh yeah. So the fear of getting judged, whether it's you personally getting judged or art getting judged. I feel like especially when we're starting out, it feels like if somebody's judging our art harshly, they're also judging us, and there needs to be a separation of the two. Basically, your art is an expression of you, but it is not you. It's separate from you. So there's that. Try to keep that division in there as much as possible. But honestly, being being judged, I mean, that's part of life anyways. Like, you're not gonna like every song that you listen to, you're not gonna like every food that you taste, you're not gonna like every piece of clothing you set eyes upon. Art is the same way. You're not gonna like all of it. You might not like what's behind you, and that's okay too. um what I would say is, if they're giving you, if the quote unquote judgment is constructive criticism, this can actually be valuable for later on when you're self evaluating your own art to see ways in which you can make it stronger, right? So it might be, maybe the comment was like, oh, I don't like it because it's all like too gray. Well, maybe you need a little bit more of a pop of contrast, right? Some lighter shades, some darker shades to make it, a little bit more attractive. Doesn't mean they're right, but if there's a little bit of a sting to it, sometimes there is something in what they're saying that you can use for future use. Now, there's always going to be the haters and the trolls out there. Just ignore them. Like, who cares? Don't take advice from people you don't, you like, don't take criticism from people you wouldn't take advice from anyways. So just move on, ignore them. Just, just yeah, brush it off your shoulder, and yeah, keep doing your own thing. Don't lose heart, because if you do, then you may stop, and then the people who actually want to buy your art and support you and share your art with other folks, in return, they won't find you if you're not around. So yeah, don't stop. Just ignore the haters and move on. Last question. This is one that I get once folks start looking at all the different elements, all the moving parts, all the hats you have to wear when you're running a creative business, is, what if I can't do this all myself? So I get it. I would have to say, you don't have to. For starters, you don't have to do all the things. You can start small and then kind of go from there. But also, if you are surrounding yourself with other creatives that have like a diversity of skills, then that means there's going to be opportunities for you to trade knowledge and basically help each other out. An example of this would be, let's say that you are wanting help, hands-on, in person, not just online, hands-on help with how to stretch a canvas and gesso it, and how to sand it smooth so that you have, a nice surface to work on. And online is not enough. You need somebody to show you in person. And on the other hand, the person that can show you needs help with the technology side of things, maybe something on their website or their tablet or something like that. And it's something that you know how to do. You can do a trade. You can exchange information, and basically help each other out. Community over competition, it's a thing. So if you have that in mind as you get started on this journey, then that means you will learn over time that your creative community can be one of your biggest assets when it comes to building your creative career. These are the folks that over time, as you build those relationships, they can offer candid advice, they can lend you a hand, they can celebrate your wins, and of course, you would do the same in return. But it's basically all about collaboration and connection. And if you're able to keep that in mind as you start embarking on your journey as a creative, whether you do this full time or you do it on the side, this is gonna make a world of difference. So, short answer, no, you don't have to do it yourself. Could you? Probably. I mean, some folks out there, sure. But even then, actually, no, I take that back. No, because I'm like, usually you'll still have somebody that helps you with photographs, or some of you will use AI. That's still getting help. Like, yeah, no, you know what? No. Or that you're using a platform or you're going to an event. You know what? No. As artists, we're not islands. You're always going to need other people, but definitely build those relationships that are mutually beneficial and they're going to carry you a long way. I think those were some great questions, and I hope my answers gave you some insight into some of the things involved with having a creative career. Whether you're learning to turn concepts into art, figuring out who your audience is, and/or attempting to navigate social media, just remember, take it one step at a time. The creative career comes with many challenges, but it's also part of the process, it's part of the fun, and it's completely worth it. Now, I want to hear from you. Did any of these questions resonate with you? Let me know in the comments if there's something that you'd like for me to dive deeper in a future episode. And don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. That's it for today, and I'll see you in the next video.